Henry looks as though he's about to pass out. Dear God, please don't let him disappear now. Father Compton is welcoming us in his radio announcer voice. I reach into Henry's coat pocket, push my fingers through the hole at the bottom, find his cock and squeeze. He jumps as though I've administered an electric shock. The Lord be with you, says Father Compton. And also with you, we all reply serenely. The same, everything the same. And yet here we are at last for anyone to see. I can feel Helen's eyes boring into my back. Ruth is sitting 5 rows behind us with her brother and parents. Nancy, Laura, Mary Christina, Patty, Dave, and Chris, and even Jason Everly. It seems like everyone I went to school with is here tonight. I look over at Henry, who's oblivious to all this. He is sweating. He glances at me, raises one eyebrow. The Mass proceeds. The readings, the Kyrie, peace be with you, and also with you. We all stand for the Gospel. Luke, chapter 2. Everyone in the Roman Empire traveling to their hometowns to be taxed. Joseph and Mary, great with child, the birth, miraculous, humble. The swaddling clothes, the manger. The logic of it has always escaped me, but the beauty of the thing is undeniable. The shepherds abiding in the field. The angel, fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy. Henry is jiggling his leg in a very distracting way. He has his eyes closed and he's biting his lip. Multitudes of angels. Father Compton intones, but Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. Amen, we say, and sit down for the sermon. Henry leans over and whispers, where is the restroom? Through that door, I tell him, pointing at the door Alicia and Frank and the others came in through. How do I get there? Walk to the back of the church and then down the side aisle. If I don't come back, you have to come back. As Father Compton says, on this most joyous of nights, Henry stands and walks quickly away. Father's eyes follow him as he walks back and over and up to the door. I watch as he slips out the door and it swings shut behind him.
I'm standing in what appears to be the hallway of an elementary school. Don't panic, I repeat to myself. No one can see you. Hide somewhere. I look around wildly, and there's a door. Boys. I open it, and I'm in a miniature men's room, brown tile, all the fixtures tiny and low to the ground, radiator blasting, intensifying the smell of institutional soap. I open the window a few inches and stick my face above the crack. There are evergreen trees blocking any view there might have been, and so the cold air I am sucking in tastes of pine. After a few minutes, I feel less tenuous. I lie down on the tile, curled up, knees to chin. Here I am, solid. Now, here on this brown tile floor. It seems like such a small thing to ask. Continuity. Surely, if there is a God, he wants us to be good, and it would be unreasonable to expect anyone to be good without incentives. And Claire is very, very good. And she even believes in God, and why would he decide to embarrass her in front of all those people? I open my eyes. All the tiny porcelain fixtures have iridescent auras, sky blue and green and purple, and I resign myself to going. There's no stopping now, and I am shaking. No! But I am gone.
Father finishes his sermon, which is about world peace. And Daddy leans across Sharon and Mark and whispers, is your friend sick? Yes, I whisper back. He has a headache, and sometimes they make him nauseous. Should I go see if I can help? No, he'll be okay. Daddy doesn't seem convinced, but he stays in his seat. Father is blessing the host. I try to suppress my urge to run out and find Henry myself. The first pews stand for communion. Alicia is playing Bach's cello suite number 2. It is sad and lovely. Come back, Henry. Come back.
I'm in my apartment in Chicago. It's dark, and I'm on my knees in the living room. I stagger up and whack my elbow on the bookshelves. Fuck! I can't believe this. I can't even get through one day with Claire's family, and I've been sucked up and spit out into my own fucking apartment like a fucking pinball. Hey! I turn, and there I am, sleepily sitting up on the sofa bed. What's the date? I demand. December 28th, 1991. 4 days from now. I sit down on the bed. I can't stand it. Relax. You'll be back in a few minutes. Nobody will notice. You'll be perfectly okay for the rest of the visit. Yeah? Yeah. Stop whining, myself says, imitating Dad perfectly. I want to deck him. Oh, what would be the point? There's music playing softly in the background. Is that Bach? Huh? Oh, yeah, it's in your head. It's Alicia. Oh, that's odd. Oh! I run for the bathroom and almost make it.
The last few people are receiving communion when Henry walks in the door, a little pale, but walking. He walks back and up the aisle and squeezes in next to me. The Mass is ended. Go in peace, says Father Compton. Amen, we respond.
Christmas Day is strangely calm after the high seas of yesterday. We gather around the tree, self-conscious in our bathrobes and slippers, and presents are opened and exclaimed over. After effusive thanks on all sides, we eat breakfast. There is a lull, and then we eat Christmas dinner, with great praise for Nell and the lobsters. Everyone is smiling, well-mannered, and good-looking. We are a model happy family, an advertisement for the bourgeoisie. We are everything I always longed for when I sat in the Lucky Walk restaurant with Dad and Mrs. and Mr. Kim every Christmas Day, and tried to pretend I was enjoying myself while the adults all watched anxiously. But even as we lounge, well-fed, in the living room after dinner, watching football on television, and reading the books we have given each other, and attempting to operate the presents which require batteries and/or assembly, there is a noticeable strain. It is as though somewhere, in one of the more remote rooms of the house, a ceasefire has been signed, and now all the parties are endeavoring to honor it, at least until tomorrow, at least until a new consignment of ammunition comes in. We are all acting, pretending to be relaxed, impersonating the ideal mother, father, sisters, brother, boyfriend, fiancé. And so it is a relief when Claire looks at her watch, gets up off the couch, and says, "Come on, it's time to go over to Laura's."
It's a clear, cold morning. Breakfast has been eaten. The party last night was blissfully uneventful, and my car is packed. Mark and Sharon have already left with Daddy for the airport in Kalamazoo. Henry is in the hall saying goodbye to Alicia. I run upstairs to Mama's room. "Oh, is it so late?" she asks when she sees me wearing my coat and boots. "I thought you were staying to lunch." Mama is sitting at her desk, which as always is covered with pieces of paper which are covered with her extravagant handwriting. "What are you working on?" Whatever it is, it's full of scratched-out words and doodles. Mama turns the page face down. She's very secretive about her writing. "Nothing. It's a poem about the garden under the snow. It isn't coming out well at all." Mama stands up, walks to the window. "Funny how poems are never as nice as the real garden. My poems, anyway." I can't really comment on this, because Mama has never let me read one of her poems. So I say, "Well, the garden is beautiful." And she waves the compliment away. Praise means nothing to Mama. She doesn't believe it. Only criticism can flush her cheeks and catch her attention. If I were to say something disparaging, she would remember it always. There is an awkward pause. I realize that she is waiting for me to leave so she can go back to her writing. "Bye, Mama," I say. I kiss her cool face and escape.
We've been on the road for about an hour. For miles, the highway was bordered by pine trees. Now we are in flatland full of barbed wire fences. Neither of us has spoken in a while. As soon as I notice it, the silence is strange, so I say something. "That wasn't so bad." My voice is too cheerful, too loud in the small car. Claire doesn't answer, and I look over at her. She's crying. Tears are running down her cheeks as she drives, pretending that she's not crying. I've never seen Claire cry before, and something about her silent, stoic tears unnerves me. Claire, could you maybe pull over for a minute?" Without looking at me, she slows down and drives onto the shoulder, stops. We are somewhere in Indiana. The sky is blue, and there are many crows in the field at the side of the road. Claire leans her forehead against the steering wheel and takes a long, ragged breath. "Claire?" I'm talking to the back of her head. Claire, I'm sorry. Did I fuck up somehow? What happened? It's not you, she says under her veil of hair. We sit like this for minutes. What's wrong then? Claire shakes her head and I sit and stare at her. Finally, I gather enough courage to touch her. I stroke her hair, feeling the bones of her neck and spine through the thick, shimmering waves. She turns and I'm holding her awkwardly across the divided seats, and now Claire is crying hard, shuddering. Then she is quiet. Then she says, "God damn, Mama." Later we are sitting in a traffic jam on the Dan Ryan Expressway, listening to Irma Thomas. "Henry, did you mind very much?" "Mind what?" I ask, thinking about Claire crying. But she says, "My family, did they seem—" "They were fine, Claire. I really liked them, especially Alicia. Sometimes I just want to push them all into Lake Michigan and watch them sink." Oh, I know the feeling. "Hey, I think your dad and your brother have seen me before. And Alicia said something really strange just as we were leaving. I saw you with Dad and Mark once, and Alicia definitely saw you in the basement one day when she was 12. Is that going to be a problem?" "No, because the explanation is too weird to be believed." We both laugh, and the tension that has ridden with us all the way to Chicago dissipates. Traffic begins to accelerate. Soon Claire stops in front of my apartment building. I take my bag from the trunk, and I watch as Claire pulls away and glides down Dearborn, and my throat closes up. Hours later, I identify what I am feeling as loneliness, and Christmas is officially over for another year. Home is anywhere you hang your head. Saturday, May 9th, 1992. Henry is 28. I've decided that the best strategy is to just ask, straight out. Either he says yes or no. I take the Ravenswood L to Dad's apartment, the home of my youth. I haven't been here much lately. Dad seldom invites me over, and I'm not given to showing up unannounced, the way I'm about to do. But if he won't answer his phone, what does he expect? I get off at Western and walk west on Lawrence. The 2-flat is on Virginia. The back porch looks over the Chicago River. As I stand in the foyer fumbling for my key, Mrs. Kim peeps out of her door and furtively gestures for me to step in. I am alarmed. I sense that she is really upset. "You like a Coke?" She is already marching toward her kitchen. "Sure." I set my back by the front door and follow her. In the kitchen, she cracks the metal lever of an old-fashioned ice cube tray. I always marvel at Kimmy's strength. She must be 70, and to me she seems exactly the same as when I was little. I spent a lot of time down here, helping her make dinner for Mr. Kim, who died 5 years ago, reading, doing homework, and watching TV. I sit at the kitchen table and she sets a glass of Coke brimming with ice before me. "Long time no see, buddy." Ouch. I know, I'm sorry. Time has been moving kind of fast lately. She appraises me. Kimmy has piercing black eyes, which seem to see the very back of my brain. Her flat Korean face conceals all emotion unless she wants you to see it. She is a fantastic bridge player. "You been time traveling?" "No, in fact, I haven't been anywhere for months. It's been great." "You got a girlfriend?" I grin. "Ho ho! Okay, I know all about it. What's her name? How come you don't bring her around?" "Her name is Claire. I have offered to bring her around several times, and he always turns me down." "You don't offer to me?" "You come here. Richard will come too. We'll have duck amandine." As usual, I am impressed with my own obtusity. Mrs. Kim knows the perfect way to dissolve all social difficulties. My dad feels no compunction about being a jerk to me, but he will always make an effort for Mrs. Kim. As well he should, since she pretty much raised his child and probably isn't charging him market rent. "You're a genius." "Yes, I am." "How come I don't get a MacArthur grant? I ask you." "I don't know. Maybe you're not getting out of the house enough." I don't think the MacArthur people are hanging around at Bingo World. No, they already got enough money. So, when you getting married? Coke comes up my nose. I'm laughing so hard. Kimmy lurches up and starts thumping me on the back. I subside, and she sits back down, grumpily. What's so funny? I just asking. I get to ask, huh? No, that's not it. I mean, I'm not laughing because it's ludicrous. I'm laughing because you're reading my mind. I came over to ask Dad to let me have Mom's rings. Oh, boy, I don't know. Wow, you're getting married. Hey, that's great. She gonna say yes? I think so. I'm 99% sure. Well, that's pretty good. I don't know about your mom's rings, though. See, what I want to tell you... Her eyes glance at the ceiling. Your dad, he's not doing too good. He's yelling a lot and throwing stuff, and he's not practicing. Oh, well, that's not totally surprising, but it's not good. I mean, you've been up there lately? Kimmy is ordinarily in Dad's apartment a lot. I think she surreptitiously cleans it. I've seen her defiantly ironing Dad's tux shirts, daring me to comment. He won't let me in. She's on the verge of tears. This is very bad. My dad certainly has his problems, but it is monstrous of him to let them affect Kimmy. But when he's not there, usually I pretend not to know that Kimmy is in and out of Dad's apartment without his knowledge. She pretends that she would never do such a thing. But actually, I'm appreciative, now that I no longer live here. Someone has to keep an eye on him. She looks guilty and crafty and slightly alarmed that I am mentioning this. Okay, yeah, I go in once, 'cause I worry about him. He got trash everywhere. We gonna get bugs if he keep this up. He's got nothing in that fridge but beer and lemons. He's got so much clothes on the bed, I don't think he sleeps in it. I don't know what he's doing. I never seen him this bad since when your mom died. Oh boy, what do you think? There's a big crash above our heads, which means Dad has dropped something on the kitchen floor. He's probably just getting up. I guess I better go up there. Yeah. Kimmy is wistful. He's such a nice guy, your dad. I don't know why he lets it get like this. He's an alcoholic. That's what alcoholics do. It's in their job description. Fall apart, and then keep falling apart. She levels her devastating gaze at me. Speaking of jobs. Yes? Oh shit. I don't think he's been working. Well, it's the off-season. He doesn't work in May. They are touring Europe and he's here. Also, he don't pay rent last 2 months. Damn. Kimmy, why didn't you call me? That's awful. Jeez. I am on my feet and down the hall. I grab my backpack and return to the kitchen. I delve around in it and find my checkbook. How much does he owe you? Mrs. Kim is deeply embarrassed. No, Henry, don't. He'll pay it. He can pay me back. Come on, buddy, it's okay. Cough it out now. How much? She's not looking at me. 1,200, she says in a small voice. That's all? What are you doing, buddy? Running the Philanthropic Society for the Support of Wayward Detambles? I write the check and stick it under her saucer. You better cash that or I'll come looking for you. Well, then I won't cash it and you will have to visit me. I'll visit you anyway. I am utterly guilt-stricken. I will bring Claire. Kimmy beams at me. I hope so. I'm going to be your maid of honor, right? If Dad doesn't shape up, you can give me away. Actually, that's a great idea. You can walk me down the aisle, and Claire will be waiting in her tux, and the organist will be playing Lohengrin. I better buy a dress. Yo, don't buy any dresses until I tell you it's a done deal. I sigh. I guess I better go up there and talk to him. I stand up. In Mrs. Kim's kitchen, I feel enormous, suddenly, as though I'm visiting my old grammar school and marveling over the size of the desks. She stands slowly and follows me to the front door. I hug her. For a moment she seems fragile and lost, and I wonder about her life, the telescoping days of cleaning and gardening and bridge playing. But then my own concerns crash back in again. I will come back soon. I can't spend my entire life hiding in bed with Claire. Kimmy watches as I open Dad's door. Hey, Dad? You home? There's a pause, and then, Go away! I walk up the stairs, and Mrs. Kim shuts her door. The first thing that hits me is the smell. Something is rotting in here. The living room is devastated. Where are all the books? My parents had tons of books on music, on history, novels in French, in German, in Italian. Where are they? Even the record and CD collection seems smaller. There are papers all over, junk mail, newspapers, scores, covering the floor. My mother's piano is coated with dust, and there is a vase of long-dead gladiolas mummifying on the windowsill. I walk down the hall, glancing in the bedrooms. Utter chaos. Clothes, garbage, more newspapers. In the bathroom, a bottle of Michelob lies under the sink, and a glossy, dry layer of beer varnishes the tile. In the kitchen, my father sits at the table with his back to me, looking out the window at the river. He doesn't turn around as I enter. He doesn't look at me when I sit down, but he doesn't get up and leave either, so I take it as a sign that conversation may proceed. Hi, Dad. Silence. I saw Mrs. Kim just now. She says you're not doing too good. Silence. I hear you're not working. It's May. How come you're not on tour? He finally looks at me. Under the stubbornness there is fright. I'm on sick leave. Since when? March. Paid sick leave? Silence. Are you sick? What's wrong? I think he's going to ignore me, but then he answers by holding out his hands. They are shaking as though they are in their own tiny earthquake. He's done it. Finally. 23 years of determined drinking, and he's destroyed his ability to play the violin. Ah, Dad. Ah, God. What does Stan say? He says that's it. The nerves are shot, and they aren't coming back. Jesus. We look at each other for an unendurable minute. His face is anguished, and I'm beginning to understand. He has nothing. There is nothing left to hold him, to keep him, to be his life. First Mom, then his music. Gone. Gone. I never mattered much to begin with, so my belated efforts will be inconsequential. What happens now? Silence. Nothing happens now. You can't just stay up here and drink for the next 20 years. He looks at the table. What about your pension? Workers' comp, Medicare, AA? He's done nothing. Let everything slide. Where have I been? I paid your rent. Oh. He's confused. Didn't I pay it? No, you owed for 2 months. Mrs. Kim was very embarrassed. She didn't want to tell me, and she didn't want me giving her money. But there's no sense making your problems her problems. Poor Mrs. Kim. Tears are coursing down my father's cheeks. He is old. There's no other word for it. He's 57, and he's an old man. I'm not angry now. I'm sorry and frightened for him. Dad, he is looking at me again. Look, you have to let me do some things for you, okay? He looks away, out the window again at the infinitely more interesting trees on the other side of the water. You need to let me see your pension documents and bank statements and all that. You need to let Mrs. Kim and me clean this place. And you need to stop drinking. No. No what? Everything or just some of it? Silence. I'm starting to lose my patience, so I decided to change the subject. Dad, I'm going to get married. Now I have his attention. To who? Who would marry you? He says this, I think, without malice. He's genuinely curious. I take out my wallet and remove a picture of Claire from its plastic pocket. In the picture, Claire is looking out serenely over Lighthouse Beach. Her hair floats like a banner in the breeze, and in the early morning light she seems to glow against a background of dark trees. Dad takes the picture and studies it carefully. Her name is Claire Abshire. She's an artist. Well, she's pretty, he says grudgingly. This is as close as I'm going to get to a paternal blessing. I would really like to give her Mom's wedding and engagement rings. I think Mom would have liked that. How would you know? You probably hardly remember her. I don't want to discuss it, but I feel suddenly determined to have my way. I see her on a regular basis. I've seen her hundreds of times since she died. I see her walking around the neighborhood, with you, with me. She goes to the park and learns scores. She shops. She has coffee with Mara at Tia's. I see her with Uncle Ish. I see her at Juilliard. I hear her sing. Dad is gaping at me. I'm destroying him, but I can't seem to stop. I have spoken to her. Once I stood next to her on a crowded train, touching her. Dad is crying. It's not always a curse, okay? Sometimes time travel is a great thing. I needed to see her, and sometimes I get to see her. She would have loved Claire, and she would have wanted me to be happy, and she would deplore the way you fucked everything up just because she died. He sits at the kitchen table and weeps. He cries, not covering his face, but simply lowering his head and letting the tears stream from him. I watch him for a while, the price of losing my temper. Then I go to the bathroom and return with the roll of toilet paper. He takes some blindly and blows his nose. Then we sit there for a few minutes. Why didn't you tell me? What do you mean? Why didn't you tell me you could see her? Would have liked to know that. Why didn't I tell him? Because any normal father would have figured out by now that the stranger haunting their early married life was really his abnormal time-traveling son. Because I was scared to. Because he hated me for surviving. Because I could secretly feel superior to him for something he saw as a defect. Ugly reasons like that. Because I thought it would hurt you. Oh, no. It doesn't hurt me. It's good to know she's there. Somewhere. I mean, the worst thing is that she's gone. So it's good that she's out there, even if I can't see her. She seems happy, usually. Yes, she was very happy. We were happy. Yeah, you were like a different person. I always wondered what it would have been like to grow up with you the way you were then. He stands up, slowly. I remain seated, and he walks unsteadily down the hall and into his bedroom. I hear him rummaging around, and then he comes slowly back with a small satin pouch. He reaches into it and withdraws a dark blue jeweler's box. He opens it and takes out the 2 delicate rings. They rest like seeds in his long, shaking hand. Dad puts his left hand over the right hand that holds the rings and sits like that for a bit, as though the rings are lightning bugs trapped in his 2 hands. His eyes are closed. Then he opens his eyes and reaches out his right hand. I cup my hands together, and he turns the rings onto my waiting palms. The engagement ring is an emerald, and the dim light from the window is refracted green and white in it. The rings are silver, and they need cleaning. They need wearing, and I know just the girl to wear them.
Birthday. Sunday, May 24th, 1992. Claire is 21. Henry is 28. It's my 21st birthday. It's a perfect summer evening. I'm at Henry's apartment, in Henry's bed, reading The Moonstone. Henry is in the tiny kitchenette making dinner. As I don his bathrobe and head for the bathroom, I hear him swearing at the blender. I take my time, wash my hair, steam up the mirrors. I prop the bathroom door open to dissipate the steam. Henry is singing something from Carmina Burana. It sounds weird and off-key. I emerge from the bathroom and he's setting the table. Perfect timing. Dinner is served. After a perfect meal, Henry gets up and brings dessert. It's mango ice cream with raspberries. It has one little candle sticking out of it at an angle. Henry sings happy birthday, and I giggle because he's so off-key. I make a wish and blow out the candle. The ice cream tastes superb. I am very cheerful. Henry says, I've been wanting to tell you, I feel so different. I just feel so connected to you, and I think that it holds me here, in the present. Being physically connected the way we are, it's kind of rewiring my brain. Henry is stroking my hand with his fingertips. He looks up. I have something for you. Come and sit over here. I get up and follow him into the living room. He's turned the bed into the couch, and I sit down. The sun is setting, and the room is washed in rose and tangerine light. Henry opens his desk, reaches into a pigeonhole, and produces a little satin bag. He sits slightly apart from me. Our knees are touching. He must be able to hear my heart beating, I think. It's come to this, I think. Henry takes my hands and looks at me gravely. I've waited for this so long, and here it is, and I'm frightened. Claire? Yes? My voice is small and scared. You know that I love you. Will you marry me? Yes. Henry? I have an overwhelming sense of déjà vu. But you know, really, I already have. Sunday, May 31st, 1992. Claire is 21. Henry is 28. Henry and I are standing in the vestibule of the apartment building he grew up in. We're a little late already, but we are just standing here. Henry is leaning against the mailboxes and breathing slowly, with his eyes closed. Don't worry, I say. It can't be any worse than you meeting Mama. Your parents were very nice to me, but Mama is unpredictable. So's Dad. Henry inserts his key into the front door lock, and we walk up one flight of stairs, and Henry knocks on the door of an apartment. Immediately, it is opened by a tiny old Korean woman, Kimmy. She's wearing a blue silk dress and bright red lipstick, and her eyebrows have been drawn on, a little lopsided. Her hair is salt and pepper gray. It's braided and coiled into two buns at her ears. For some reason, she reminds me of Ruth Gordon. She comes up to my shoulder, and she tilts her head back and says, "Oh, Henry, she's beautiful." I can feel myself turn red. Henry says, "Kimmy, where are your manners?" And Kimmy laughs and says, "Hello, Miss Claire Abshire." And I say, "Hello, Mrs. Kim." We smile at each other, and she says, "Oh, you got to call me Kimmy. Everybody call me Kimmy." I nod and follow her into the living room, and there's Henry's dad, sitting in an armchair. He doesn't say anything, just looks at me. Henry's dad is thin, tall, angular, and tired. He doesn't look much like Henry. He has short gray hair, dark eyes, a long nose, and a thin mouth whose corners turn down a little. He's sitting all bunched up in his chair, and I notice his hands, long, elegant hands that lie in his lap, like a cat napping. Henry coughs and says, "Dad, this is Claire Abshire. Claire, this is my father, Richard de Tamble." Mr. de Tamble slowly extends one of his hands, and I step forward and shake it. It's ice cold. "Hello, Mr. de Tamble, it's nice to meet you," I say. "Is it? Henry must not have told you very much about me, then." His voice is hoarse and amused. "I will have to capitalize on your optimism. Come and sit down by me. Kimmy, may we have something to drink?" "I was just going to ask everyone. Claire, what would you like? I made sangria, you like that? Henry, how about you? Sangria? Okay. Richard, you like a beer?" Everyone seems to pause for a moment. Then Mr. de Tamble says, "No, Kimmy, I think I'll just have tea, if you don't mind making it." Kimmy smiles and disappears into the kitchen, and Mr. de Tamble turns to me and says, "I have a bit of a cold. I've taken some of that cold medicine, but I'm afraid it just makes me drowsy." Henry is sitting on the couch watching us. All the furniture is white and looks as though it was bought at a J.C. Penney around 1945. The upholstery is protected with clear plastic, and there are vinyl runners over the white carpet. There's a fireplace that looks as though it's never used. Above it is a beautiful ink painting of bamboo in wind. That's a wonderful painting, I say, because no one is saying anything. Mr. de Tamble seems pleased. Do you like it? Annette and I brought it back from Japan in 1962. We bought it in Kyoto, but the original is from China. We thought Kimmy and Dong would like it. It is a 17th century copy of a much older painting. Tell Claire about the poem, Henry says. Yes, the poem goes something like this. Bamboo without mind, yet sends thoughts soaring among clouds. Standing on the lone mountain, quiet, dignified, it typifies the will of a gentleman. Painted and written with a light heart, Wu Chen. That's lovely, I say. Kimmy comes in with drinks on a tray, and Henry and I each take a glass of sangria while Mr. de Tamble carefully grasps his tea with both hands. The cup rattles against the saucer as he sets it on the table beside him. Kimmy sits in a small armchair by the fireplace and sips her sangria. I taste mine and realize that it's really strong. Henry glances at me and raises his eyebrows. Kimmy says, "Do you like gardens, Claire?" Yes, I say. My mother is a gardener. You got to come out before dinner and see the backyard. All my peonies are blooming, and we got to show you the river. That sounds nice. We all troop out to the yard. I admire the Chicago River, placidly flowing at the foot of a precarious stairway. I admire the peonies. Kimmy asks, "What kind of garden does your mom have? Does she grow roses?" Kimmy has a tiny but well-ordered rose garden, all hybrid teas, as far as I can tell. She does have a rose garden. Actually, Mama's real passion is irises. "Oh, I got irises. They're over there." Kimmy points to a clump of iris. "I need to divide them. You think your mom would like some?" "I don't know. I could ask." Mama has more than 200 varieties of iris. I catch Henry smiling behind Kimmy's back, and I frown at him. "I could ask her if she wants to trade you some of hers. She has some that she bred herself, and she likes to give them to friends." "Your mother breeds iris?" Mr. de Tamble asks. "Uh-huh. She also breeds tulips, but the irises are her favorites." "She is a professional gardener." "No," I say, "just an amateur. She has a gardener who does most of the work, and there's a bunch of people who come in and mow and weed and all that." "Must be a big yard," Kimmy says. She leads the way back into the apartment. In the kitchen, a timer goes off. "Okay," says Kimmy, "it's time to eat." I ask if I can help, but Kimmy waves me into a chair. I sit across from Henry. His dad is on my right, and Kimmy's empty chair is on my left. I notice that Mr. de Tamble is wearing a sweater, even though it's pretty warm in here. Kimmy has very pretty china. There are hummingbirds painted on it. Each of us has a sweating, cold glass of water. Kimmy pours us white wine. She hesitates at Henry's dad's glass, but passes him over when he shakes his head. She brings out salads and sits down. Mr. de Tamble raises his water glass. "To the happy couple," he says. "Happy couple," says Kimmy, and we all touch glasses and drink. Kimmy says, "So, Claire, Henry say you are an artist. What kind of artist?" "I make paper sculptures." "Oh, you'll have to show me sometime, 'cause I don't know about that. Like origami?" No." Henry intercedes. "They're like that German artist we saw down at the Art Institute. You know, Anselm Kiefer. Big, dark, scary paper sculptures." Kimmy looks puzzled. "Why would a pretty girl like you make ugly things like that?" Henry laughs. "It's art, Kimmy. Besides, they're beautiful." "I use a lot of flowers," I tell Kimmy. "If you give me your dead roses, I'll put them in the piece I'm working on now." "Okay," she says. "What is it?" "A giant crow made out of roses, hair, and daylily fiber." "Huh. How come a crow? Crows are bad luck." "They are? I think they're gorgeous." Mr. de Tamble raises one eyebrow, and for just a second he does look like Henry. He says, "You have peculiar ideas about beauty." Kimmy gets up and clears our salad plates and brings in a bowl of green beans and a steaming plate of roast duck with raspberry pink peppercorn sauce. It's heavenly. I realize where Henry learned to cook. What you think? Kimmy demands. It's delicious, Kimmy, says Mr. DeTamble, and I echo his praise. Maybe cut down on the sugar? Henry asks. Yeah, I think so too, says Kimmy. It's really tender, though, Henry says, and Kimmy grins. I stretch out my hand to pick up my wine glass. Mr. DeTamble nods at me and says, Annette's ring looks well on you. It's very beautiful. Thank you for letting me have it. There's a lot of history in that ring, and the wedding band that goes with it. It was made in Paris in 1823 for my great-great-great-grandmother, whose name was Jeanne. It came to America in 1920 with my grandmother Yvette, and it's been sitting in a drawer since 1969, when Annette died. It's good to see it back out in the light of day. I look at the ring and think Henry's mom was wearing this when she died. I glance at Henry, who seems to be thinking the same thing, and at Mr. DeTamble, who is eating his duck. Tell me about Annette, I ask Mr. DeTamble. He puts down his fork and leans his elbows on the table, puts his hands against his forehead. He peers at me from behind his hands. Well, I'm sure Henry must have told you something. Yes, a little. I grew up listening to her records. My parents are fans of hers. Mr. DeTamble smiles. Ah, well then you know that Annette had the most marvelous voice. Rich and pure. Such a voice and such range. She could express her soul with that voice. Whenever I listened to her, I felt my life meant more than mere biology. She could really hear. She understood structure, and she could analyze exactly what it was about a piece of music that had to be rendered, just so. She was a very emotional person, Annette. She brought that out in other people. After she died, I don't think I ever really felt anything again. He pauses. I can't look at Mr. DeTamble, so I look at Henry. He's staring at his father with an expression of such sadness that I look at my plate. Mr. DeTamble says, But you asked about Annette, not about me. She was kind, and she was a great artist. You don't often find that those go together. Annette made people happy. She was happy herself. She enjoyed life. I only saw her cry twice. Once when I gave her that ring, and the other time when she had Henry. Another pause. Finally I say, You were very lucky. He smiles, still shielding his face in his hands. Well, we were and we weren't. One minute we had everything we could dream of, and the next minute, she was in pieces on the expressway. Henry winces. But don't you think, I persist, that it's better to be extremely happy for a short while, even if you lose it, than to be just okay for your whole life? Mr. DeTamble regards me. He takes his hands away from his face and stares. Then he says, I've often wondered about that. Do you believe that? I think about my childhood, all the waiting and wondering, and the joy of seeing Henry walking through the meadow after not seeing him for weeks, months. And I think about what it was like not to see him for 2 years, and then to find him standing in the reading room at the Newberry Library. The joy of being able to touch him, the luxury of knowing where he is, of knowing he loves me. Yes, I say, I do. I meet Henry's eyes and smile. Mr. DeTamble nods. Henry has chosen well. Kimmy gets up to bring coffee, and while she's in the kitchen, Mr. DeTamble continues. He isn't calibrated to bring peace to anyone's life. In fact, he is in many ways the opposite of his mother, unreliable, volatile, and not even especially concerned with anyone but himself. Tell me, Claire, why on earth would a lovely girl like you want to marry Henry? Everything in the room seems to hold its breath. Henry stiffens, but doesn't say anything. I lean forward and smile at Mr. DeTamble and say, with enthusiasm, as though he has asked me what flavor of ice cream I like best, because he's really, really good in bed. In the kitchen, there's a howl of laughter. Mr. DeTamble glances at Henry, who raises his eyebrows and grins, and finally, even Mr. DeTamble smiles and says, Touché, my dear. Later, after we have drunk our coffee and eaten Kimmy's perfect almond torte, after Kimmy has shown me photographs of Henry as a baby, a toddler, a high school senior, to his extreme embarrassment, after Kimmy has extracted more information about my family. How many rooms? That many. Hey, buddy, how come you don't tell me she's beautiful and rich? We all stand at the front door, and I thank Kimmy for dinner and say goodnight to Mr. de Tamble. It was a pleasure, Claire, he says, but you must call me Richard. Thank you, Richard. He takes my hand for a moment, and for just that moment I see him as Annette must have seen him years ago. And then it's gone, and he nods awkwardly at Henry, who kisses Kimmy, and we walk downstairs and into the summer evening. It seems like years have passed since we went inside. Whoosh, says Henry. I died 1,000 deaths just watching that. Was I okay? Okay, you were brilliant. He loved you. We're walking down the street, holding hands. There's a playground at the end of the block, and I run to the swings and climb on, and Henry takes the one next to me, facing the opposite direction, and we swing higher and higher, passing each other, sometimes in sync and sometimes streaming past each other so fast it seems like we're going to collide. And we laugh, and nothing can ever be sad. No one can be lost or dead or far away. Right now, we are here, and nothing can mar our perfection or steal the joy of this perfect moment.
Get me to the church on time. Saturday, October 23rd, 1993. Henry is 30. Claire is 22. 6 a.m. I wake up at 6 a.m. and it's raining. I am in a snug little green room under the eaves in a cozy little bed and breakfast called Blake's, which is right on the South Beach in South Haven. Claire's parents have chosen this place. My dad is sleeping in an equally cozy pink room downstairs, next to Mrs. Kim in a lovely yellow room. Grandpa and Grams are in the uber-cozy blue master bedroom. I lie in the extra soft bed under Laura Ashley sheets, and I can hear the wind flinging itself against the house. The rain is pouring down in sheets. I wonder if I can run in this monsoon. I hear it coursing through the gutters and drumming on the roof, which is about 2 feet above my face. This room is like a garret. It has a delicate little writing desk, in case I need to pen any ladylike missives on my wedding day. There's a china ewer and basin on the bureau. If I actually wanted to use them, I'd probably have to break the ice on the water first, because it's quite cold up here. I feel like a pink worm in the core of this green room, as though I have eaten my way in and should be working on becoming a butterfly or something. I'm not real awake here at the moment. I hear somebody coughing. I hear my heart beating, and the high-pitched sound which is my nervous system doing its thing. Oh, God, let today be a normal day. Let me be normally befuddled, normally nervous. Get me to the church on time, in time. Let me not startle anyone, especially myself. Let me get through our wedding day as best I can, with no special effects. Deliver Claire from unpleasant scenes. Amen.
7 a.m. I wake up in my bed, the bed of my childhood. As I float on the surface of waking, I can't find myself in time. Is it Christmas? Thanksgiving? Is it 3rd grade again? Am I sick? Why is it raining? Outside the yellow curtains, the sky is dead, and the big elm tree is being stripped of its yellow leaves by the wind. I have been dreaming all night. The dreams merge now. In one part of this dream, I was swimming in the ocean. I was a mermaid. I was sort of new at being a mermaid, and one of the other mermaids was trying to teach me. She was giving me mermaid lessons. I was afraid to breathe underwater. The water got into my lungs, and I couldn't figure out how it was supposed to work. It felt terrible, and I kept having to rise up to the surface and breathe, and the other mermaid kept saying, "No, Claire, like this," until finally I realized that she had gills in her neck, and I did too, and then it was better. Swimming was like flying. All the fish were birds. There was a boat on the surface of the ocean, and we all swam up to see the boat. It was just a little sailboat, and my mother was on it all by herself. I swam up to her, and she was surprised to see me there. She said, "Why, Claire, I thought you were getting married today." And I suddenly realized, the way you do in dreams, that I couldn't get married to Henry if I was a mermaid, and I started to cry, and then I woke up and it was the middle of the night. So I lay there for a while in the dark, and I made up that I became a regular woman, like the Little Mermaid, except I didn't have any of that nonsense about hideous pain in my feet or getting my tongue cut out. Hans Christian Andersen must have been a very strange and sad person. Then I went back to sleep, and now I'm in bed, and Henry and I are getting married today.
7:16 a.m. The ceremony is at 2 p.m., and it will take me about half an hour to dress and 20 minutes for us to drive over to St. Basil's. It is now 7:16 a.m., which leaves 5 hours and 44 minutes to kill. I throw on jeans and a skanky old flannel shirt and high tops and creep as quietly as possible downstairs seeking coffee. Dad has beat me to it. He's sitting in the breakfast room with his hands wrapped around a dainty cup of steaming black joe. I pour one for myself and sit across from him. Through the lace curtain windows, the weak light gives Dad a ghostly look. He's a colorized version of a black and white movie of himself this morning. His hair is standing up every which way, and without thinking, I smooth mine down, as though he were a mirror. He does the same, and we smile.
8:17 a.m. Alicia is sitting on my bed, poking me. "Come on, Claire," she pokes. "Daylight in the swamp, the birds are singing." Quite untrue. "And the frogs are jumping, and it's time to get up." Alicia is tickling me. She throws off the covers, and we are wrestling, and just as I pin her, Etta sticks her head in the door and hisses, "Girls, what is all this bumping? Your father, he thinks a tree fell on the house, but no, it's you sillies trying to kill each other. Breakfast is almost ready." With that, Etta abruptly withdraws her head, and we hear her barging down the stairs as we dissolve into laughter.
8:32 a.m. It's still blowing gales out there, but I am going running anyway. I study the map of South Haven, a shining jewel on the sunset coast of Lake Michigan, which Claire has provided me with. Yesterday I ran along the beach, which was pleasant, but not something to do this morning. I can see 6-foot-tall waves throwing themselves at the shore. I measure out a mile of streets and figure I will run laps. If it's too awful out there, I can cut it short. I stretch out. Every joint pops. I can almost hear tension crackling in my nerves like static in a phone line. I get dressed, and out into the world I go. The rain is a slap in the face. I am drenched immediately. I soldier slowly down Maple Street. It's just going to be a slog. I am fighting the wind, and there's no way to get up any speed. I pass a woman standing at the curb with her bulldog, and she looks at me with amazement. "This isn't mere exercise," I tell her silently. "This is desperation."
8:54 a.m. We're gathered around the breakfast table. Cold leaks in from all the windows, and I can barely see outside. It's raining so hard. How is Henry going to run in this? "Perfect weather for a wedding," Mark jokes. I shrug. "I didn't pick it." "You didn't?" "Daddy picked it." "Well, I'm paying for it," Daddy says petulantly. "True." I munch my toast. My mother eyes my plate critically. "Honey, why don't you have some nice bacon and some of these eggs?" The very thought turns my stomach. I can't, really. Please. "Well, at least put some peanut butter on that toast. You need protein." I make eye contact with Etta, who strides into the kitchen and comes back a minute later with a tiny crystal dish full of peanut butter. I thank her and spread some on the toast. I ask my mother, "Do I have any time before Janice shows up?" Janice is going to do something hideous to my face and hair. "She's coming at 11. Why?" "I need to run into town to get something." "I can get it for you, sweetie." She looks relieved at the thought of getting out of the house. "I would like to go myself." "We can both go." "By myself?" I mutely plead with her. She's puzzled, but relents. "Well, okay, goodness." "Great, I'll be right back." I get up to leave. Daddy clears his throat. May I be excused? Certainly. Thank you. I flee.
9:35 a.m. I'm standing in the immense, empty bathtub struggling out of my cold, soaked clothes. My brand new running shoes have acquired an entirely new shape, reminiscent of marine life. I have left a trail of water from the front door to the tub, which I hope Mrs. Blake won't mind too much. Someone knocks on my door. Just a minute, I call. I squish over to the door and crack it open. To my complete surprise, it's Claire. What's the password? I say softly. Fuck me, replies Claire. I swing the door wide. Claire walks in, sits on the bed, and starts taking off her shoes. You're not joking. Come on, oh almost husband mine. I've got to be back by 11. She looks me up and down. You went running? I didn't think you'd run in this rain. Desperate times call for desperate measures. I peel off my t-shirt and throw it into the tub. It lands with a splat. Isn't it supposed to be bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the wedding? So close your eyes. Claire trots into the bathroom and grabs a towel. I lean over and she dries my hair. It feels wonderful. I could do with a lifetime of this. Yes, indeed. It's really cold up here, says Claire. Come and be bedded, almost wife. It's the only warm spot in the whole place. We climb in. We do everything out of order, don't we? You have a problem with that? No, I like it. Good. You've come to the right man for all your extra chronological needs.
11:15 a.m. I walk in the back door and leave my umbrella in the mudroom. In the hall, I almost bump into Alicia. Where have you been? Janice is here. What time is it? 11:15. Hey, you got your shirt on backward and inside out. I think that's good luck, isn't it? Maybe, but you better change it before you go upstairs. I duck back into the mudroom and reverse my shirt. Then I run upstairs. Mama and Janice are standing in the hall outside my room. Janice is carrying a huge bag of cosmetics and other implements of torture. There you are. I was getting worried. Mama shepherds me into my room, and Janice brings up the rear. I have to go talk to the caterers. She's almost wringing her hands as she departs. I turn to Janice, who examines me critically. Your hair's all wet and tangled. Why don't you comb it out while I set up? She starts to take 1,000,000 tubes and bottles from her bag and sets them on my dresser. Janice, I hand her the postcard from the Uffizi. Can you do this? I've always loved the little Medici princess whose hair is not unlike mine. Hers has many tiny braids and pearls all swooped together in a beautiful fall of amber hair. The anonymous artist must have loved her too. How could he not love her? Janice considers. This isn't what your mom thinks we're doing. But it's my wedding, and my hair, and I'll give you a very large tip if you do it my way. I won't have time to do your face if we do this. It'll take too long to do all these braids. Hallelujah. It's okay. I'll put on my own makeup. Well, all right. Just comb it for me and we'll get started. I begin to pick out the tangles. I'm starting to enjoy this. As I surrender to Janice's slender brown hands, I wonder what Henry is up to.
11:36 a.m. The tux and all its attendant miseries are laid out on the bed. I'm freezing my undernourished ass off in this cold room. I throw all my cold, wet clothing out of the tub and into the sink. This bathroom is amazingly as big as the bedroom. It's carpeted and relentlessly pseudo-Victorian. The tub is an immense claw-footed thing amid various ferns and stacks of towels, and a commode and a large-framed reproduction of Hunt's The Awakened Conscience. The windowsill is 6 inches from the floor, and the curtains are filmy white muslin, so I can see Maple Street in all its dead leafy glory. A beige Lincoln Continental cruises lazily up the street. I run hot water into the tub, which is so large that I get tired of waiting for it to fill and climb in. I amuse myself playing with the European-style shower attachment and taking the caps off the 10 or so shampoos, shower gels, and conditioners and sniffing them all. By the 5th one, I have a headache. I sing Yellow Submarine. Everything within a 4-foot radius gets wet.
12:35 p.m. Janice releases me, and Mama and Etta converge. Etta says, "Oh, Claire, you look beautiful." Mama says, "That's not the hairstyle we agreed on, Claire." Mama gives Janice a hard time and then pays her, and I give Janice her tip when Mama's not looking. I'm supposed to get dressed at the church, so they pack me into the car, and we drive over to St. Basil's.
12:55 p.m. Henry is 38. I'm walking along Highway 12, about 2 miles south of South Haven. It's an unbelievably awful day, weather-wise. It's fall, rain is gusting and pouring down in sheets, and it's cold and windy. I'm wearing nothing but jeans. I'm barefoot, and I am soaked to the skin. I have no idea where I am in time. I'm headed for Meadowlark House, hoping to dry out in the reading room and maybe eat something. I have no money, but when I see the pink neon light of the cut-rate gas for less sign, I veer toward it. I enter the gas station and stand for a moment, streaming water onto the linoleum and catching my breath. "What a day to be out in," says the thin, elderly gent behind the counter. "Yup," I reply. "Car breakdown?" "Huh? No." He's taking a good look at me, noting the bare feet, the unseasonable clothing. I pause, feign embarrassment. "Girlfriend threw me out of the house." He says something, but I don't hear it because I am looking at the South Haven Daily. Today is Saturday, October 23rd, 1993. Our wedding day. The clock above the cigarette rack says 1:10. "Gotta run," I say to the old man, and I do.
1:42 p.m. I'm standing in my fourth-grade classroom wearing my wedding dress. It's ivory-watered silk with lots of lace and seed pearls. The dress is tightly fitted in the bodice and arms, but the skirt is huge, floor-length with a train and 20 yards of fabric. I could hide 10 midgets under it. I feel like a parade float, but Mama is making much of me. She's fussing and taking pictures and trying to get me to put on more makeup. Alicia and Charisse and Helen and Ruth are all fluttering around in their matching sage green velvet bridesmaids' outfits. Since Charisse and Ruth are both short, and Alicia and Helen are both tall, they look like some oddly assorted Girl Scouts, but we've all agreed to be cool about it when Mama's around. They are comparing the dye jobs on their shoes and arguing about who should get to catch the bouquet. Helen says, "Charisse, you're already engaged. You shouldn't even be trying to catch it." And Charisse shrugs and says, "Insurance. With Gomez, you never know."
1:48 p.m. I'm sitting on a radiator in a musty room full of boxes of prayer books. Gomez is pacing back and forth, smoking. He looks terrific in his tux. I feel like I'm impersonating a game show host. Gomez paces and flicks his ashes into a teacup. He's making me even more nervous than I already am. "You got the ring?" I ask for the gazillionth time. "Yeah, I've got the ring." He stops pacing for a moment and looks at me. "Want a drink?" "Yeah." Gomez produces a flask and hands it to me. I uncap it and take a swallow. It's very smooth scotch. I take another mouthful and hand it back. I can hear people laughing and talking out in the vestibule. I'm sweating and my head aches. The room is very warm. I stand up and open the window, hang my head out, breathe. It's still raining. There's a noise in the shrubbery. I open the window farther and look down. There I am, sitting in the dirt, under the window, soaking wet, panting. He grins at me and gives me the thumbs up.
1:55 p.m. We're all standing in the vestibule of the church. Daddy says, "Let's get this show on the road," and knocks on the door of the room Henry is dressing in. Gomez sticks his head out and says, "Give us a minute." He throws me a look that makes my stomach clench and pulls his head in and shuts the door. I am walking toward the door when Gomez opens it again and Henry appears doing up his cufflinks. He's wet, dirty, and unshaven. He looks about 40, but he's here, and he gives me a triumphant smile as he walks through the doors of the church and down the aisle.
Sunday, June 13th, 1976. Henry is 30. I am lying on the floor in my old bedroom. I'm alone, and it's a perfect summer night in an unknown year. I lie there swearing and feeling like an idiot for a while. Then I get up and go into the kitchen and help myself to several of Dad's beers.
Saturday, October 23rd, 1993. Henry is 38 and 30. Claire is 22. 2:37 p.m. We are standing at the altar. Henry turns to me and says, "I, Henry, take you, Claire, to be my wife. I promise to be true to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health. I will love you and honor you all the days of my life." I think, remember this. I repeat the promise to him. Father Compton smiles at us and says, "What God has joined, men must not divide." I think, that's not really the problem. Henry slides the thin silver ring over my finger into place above the engagement ring. I place his plain gold band on his finger, the only time he will ever wear it. The Mass proceeds, and I think this is all that matters. He's here, I'm here. It doesn't matter how, as long as he's with me. Father Compton blesses us and says, "The Mass is ended. Go in peace." We walk down the aisle, arm in arm, together.
6:26 p.m. The reception is just getting underway. The caterers are rushing back and forth with steel carts and covered trays. People are arriving and checking their coats. The rain has finally stopped. The South Haven Yacht Club is on North Beach, a 1920s building done up in paneling and leather, red carpet, and paintings of ships. It's dark out now, but the lighthouse is blinking away out on the pier. I'm standing at a window, drinking Glenlivet, waiting for Claire, who has been whisked away by her mother for some reason I'm not privy to. I see Gomez and my old friend Ben's reflections heading toward me, and I turn. Ben looks worried. "How are you?" "I'm okay. Can you guys do me a favor?" They nod. "Gomez, go back to the church. I'm there, waiting in the vestibule. Pick me up and bring me here. Smuggle me into the downstairs men's john and leave me there. Ben, keep an eye on me." I point at my chest. "And when I tell you to, grab my tux and bring it to me in the men's room. Okay?" Gomez asks, "How much time do we have?" "Not much." He nods and walks away. Charisse approaches and Gomez kisses her on the forehead and continues on. Ben goes off in search of the men's room.
7:04 p.m. Everyone is sitting down to dinner, and no one can find Henry. I ask Gomez if he's seen him, and Gomez just gives me one of his Gomez looks and says that he's sure Henry will be here any minute. Kimmy comes up to us, looking very fragile and worried in her rose silk dress. "Where is Henry?" she asks me. "I don't know, Kimmy." She pulls me toward her and whispers in my ear, "I saw his young friend Ben carrying a pile of clothing out of the lounge." Oh no, if Henry has snapped back to his present, it will be hard to explain. Maybe I could say that there was an emergency. Some kind of library emergency that required Henry's immediate attention. But all his co-workers are here. Maybe I could say Henry has amnesia, has wandered away. "There he is," Kimmy says. She squeezes my hand. Henry is standing in the doorway, scanning the crowd, and sees us. He comes running over. I kiss him. "Howdy, stranger." He is back in the present, my younger Henry, the one who belongs here. Henry takes my arm, and Kimmy's arm, and leads us in to dinner. Kimmy chuckles and says something to Henry that I don't catch. "What'd she say?" I ask as we sit down. "She asked me if we were planning a ménage à trois for the wedding night." I turn lobster red. Kimmy winks at me.
7:16 p.m. I'm hanging out in the club library, eating canapes and reading a sumptuously bound and probably never opened first edition of Heart of Darkness. Out of the corner of my eye, I see the manager of the club speeding toward me. I close the book and replace it on the shelf. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave." No shirt, no shoes, no service. "Okay." I stand up, and as the manager turns his back, blood rushes to my head and I vanish. I come to on our kitchen floor on March 2nd, 2002, laughing. I've always wanted to do that.
7:21 p.m. Gomez is making a speech. Dear Claire and Henry, family and friends, members of the jury. Wait, scratch that. Dearly beloved, we have gathered here this evening on the shores of the land of singledom to wave our handkerchiefs at Claire and Henry as they embark together on their voyage on the good ship Matrimony. And while we are sad to watch them bid farewell to the joys of single life, we are confident that the much ballyhooed state of wedded bliss will be a more than adequate new address. Some of us may even join them there shortly, unless we can think of a way to avoid it. And so let us have a toast to Claire Abshire de Tamble, a beautiful art babe who deserves every happiness that may befall her in her new world. And to Henry de Tamble, a damn fine fellow and a lucky son of a bitch. May the sea of life stretch before you like glass, and may you always have the wind at your backs. To the happy couple. Gomez leans over and kisses me on the mouth, and I catch his eyes for a moment, and then the moment is gone.
8:48 p.m. We have cut and eaten the wedding cake. Claire has thrown her bouquet. Charisse caught it. And I have thrown Claire's garter. Ben caught that. The band is playing Take the A Train, and people are dancing. I have danced with Claire, and Kimmy, Alicia, and Charisse. Now I am dancing with Helen, who is pretty hot stuff. And Claire is dancing with Gomez.
10:23 p.m. It's over. We have kissed and hugged our way out of the club, have driven off in our shaving cream and tin can covered car. I pull up in front of the Dewdrop Inn, a tiny, tacky motel on Silver Lake. Henry is asleep. I get out, check in, get the desk guy to help me walk Henry into our room and dump him on the bed. The guy brings in the luggage, eyeballs my wedding dress and Henry's inert state, and smirks at me. I tip him. He leaves. I remove Henry's shoes, loosen his tie. I take off my dress and lay it over the armchair. I'm standing in the bathroom, shivering in my slip and brushing my teeth. In the mirror, I can see Henry lying on the bed. He's snoring. I spit out the toothpaste and rinse my mouth. Suddenly, it comes over me. Happiness. And the realization. We're married. Well, I'm married, anyway. When I turn out the light, I kiss Henry goodnight. He smells of alcohol sweat and Helen's perfume. Good night, don't let the bedbugs bite. And I fall asleep, dreamless and happy.
Monday, October 25th, 1993. Henry is 30. Claire is 22. The Monday after the wedding, Claire and I are at Chicago City Hall, being married by a judge. Gomez and Charisse are the witnesses. Afterward, we all go out for dinner at Charlie Trotter's, a restaurant so expensive that the decor resembles the first-class section of an airplane or a minimalist sculpture. Fortunately, although the food looks like art, it tastes great. Charisse takes photographs of each course as it appears in front of us. "How's it feel, being married?" asks Charisse. "I feel very married," Claire says. "You could keep going," says Gomez. "Try out all the different ceremonies, Buddhist, nudist." "I wonder if I'm a bigamist." Claire is eating something pistachio-colored that has several large shrimp poised over it, as though they are nearsighted old men reading a newspaper. "I think you're allowed to marry the same person as many times as you want," Charisse says. "Are you the same person?" Gomez asks me. The thing I'm eating is covered with thin slices of raw tuna that melt on my tongue. I take a moment to appreciate them before I answer. "Yes, but more so." Gomez is disgruntled and mutters something about Zen koans, but Claire smiles at me and raises her glass. I tap hers with mine. A delicate crystal note rings out and falls away in the hum of the restaurant. And so, we are married. Part 2. A drop of blood in a bowl of milk.
What is it, my dear?
How can we bear it?
Bear what?
This. For so short a time. How can we sleep this time away?
We can be quiet together and pretend, since it is only the beginning, that we have all the time in the world.
And every day we shall have less, and then none.
Would you rather, therefore, have had nothing at all?
No, this is where I have always been coming to, since my time began. And when I go away from here, this will be the midpoint, to which everything ran before, and from which everything will run. But now, my love, we are here. We are now. And those other times are running elsewhere. A.S. Byatt, Possession.
Married life. March 1994. Claire is 22. Henry is 30. And so we are married. At first, we live in a 2-bedroom apartment in a 2-flat in Ravenswood. It's sunny, with butter-colored hardwood floors and a kitchen full of antique cabinets and antiquated appliances. We buy things, spend Sunday afternoons in Crate and Barrel, exchanging wedding presents, order a sofa that can't fit through the doors of the apartment and has to be sent back. The apartment is a laboratory in which we conduct experiments, perform research on each other. We discover that Henry hates it when I absent-mindedly click my spoon against my teeth while reading the paper at breakfast. We agree that it's okay for me to listen to Joni Mitchell, and it's okay for Henry to listen to the Shags, as long as the other person isn't around. We figure out that Henry should do all the cooking, and I should be in charge of laundry, and neither of us is willing to vacuum, so we hire a cleaning service. I'm having a hard time in my tiny back bedroom studio in the beginning of my married life. The space that I can call mine, that isn't full of Henry, is so small that my ideas have become small. I'm like a caterpillar in a cocoon of paper. All around me are sketches for sculptures, small drawings that seem like moths fluttering against the windows, beating their wings to escape from this tiny space. I make maquettes, tiny sculptures that are rehearsals for huge sculptures. Every day the ideas come more reluctantly, as though they know I will starve them and stunt their growth. At night I dream about color, about submerging my arms into vats of paper fiber. I dream about miniature gardens I can't set foot in because I am a giantess. The compelling thing about making art, or making anything, I suppose, is the moment when the vaporous, insubstantial idea becomes a solid there, a thing, a substance in a world of substances. Circe, Nimbue, Artemis, Athena, all the old sorceresses, they must have known the feeling as they transformed mere men into fabulous creatures, stole the secrets of the magicians, disposed armies. Ah, look, there it is, the new thing. Call it a swine, a war, a laurel tree. Call it art. The magic I can make is small magic now, deferred magic. Every day I work, but nothing ever materializes. I feel like Penelope, weaving and unweaving. And what of Henry, my Odysseus? Henry is an artist of another sort, a disappearing artist. Our life together in this too small apartment is punctuated by Henry's small absences. Sometimes he disappears unobtrusively. I might be walking from the kitchen into the hall and find a pile of clothing on the floor. I might get out of bed in the morning and find the shower running and no one in it. Sometimes it's frightening. I'm working in my studio one afternoon when I hear someone moaning outside my door. When I open it, I find Henry on his hands and knees, naked in the hall, bleeding heavily from his head. He opens his eyes, sees me, and vanishes. Sometimes I wake up in the night and Henry is gone. In the morning he will tell me where he's been, the way other husbands might tell their wives a dream they had. I was in the Seltzer Library in the dark in 1989. Or, I was chased by a German shepherd across somebody's backyard and had to climb a tree. Or, I was standing in the rain near my parents' apartment, listening to my mother sing. I am waiting for Henry to tell me that he has seen me as a child, but so far, this hasn't happened. When I was a child, I looked forward to seeing Henry. Every visit was an event. Now, Every absence is a non-event, a subtraction, an adventure I will hear about when my adventurer materializes at my feet, bleeding or whistling, smiling or shaking. Now, I am afraid when he is gone.
When you live with a woman, you learn something every day. So far, I have learned that long hair will clog up the shower drain before you can say liquid plumber. That it is not advisable to clip something out of the newspaper before your wife has read it, even if the newspaper in question is a week old. That I am the only person in our two-person household who can eat the same thing for dinner 3 nights in a row without pouting, and that headphones were invented to preserve spouses from each other's musical excesses. The hardest lesson is Claire's solitude. Sometimes I come home and Claire seems kind of irritated. I've interrupted some train of thought, broken into the dreamy silence of her day. Sometimes I see an expression on Claire's face that is like a closed door. She has gone inside the room of her mind and is sitting there knitting or something. I've discovered that Claire likes to be alone. But when I return from time traveling, she is always relieved to see me. When the woman you live with is an artist, every day is a surprise. Claire has turned the second bedroom into a wonder cabinet, full of small sculptures and drawings pinned up on every inch of wall space. There are coils of wire and rolls of paper tucked into shelves and drawers. The sculptures remind me of kites or model airplanes. I say this to Claire one evening, standing in the doorway of her studio in my suit and tie, home from work, about to begin making dinner, and she throws one at me. It flies surprisingly well, and soon we are standing at opposite ends of the hall, tossing tiny sculptures at each other, testing their aerodynamics. The next day, I come home to find that Claire has created a flock of paper and wire birds, which are hanging from the ceiling in the living room. A week later, our bedroom windows are full of abstract blue, translucent shapes that the sun throws across the room onto the walls, making a sky for the bird shapes Claire has painted there. It's beautiful. The next evening, I'm standing in the doorway of Claire's studio, watching her finish drawing a thicket of black lines around a little red bird. Suddenly, I see Claire, in her small room, closed in by all her stuff, and I realize that she's trying to say something, and I know what I have to do.
Wednesday, April 13th, 1994. Claire is 22, Henry is 30. I hear Henry key in the front door, and I come out of the studio as he walks in. To my surprise, he's carrying a television set. We don't own a TV because Henry can't watch it, and I can't be bothered to watch by myself. The TV is an old, small, dusty black and white set with a broken antenna. "Hi, honey, I'm home," says Henry, setting the TV on the dining room table. "Ugh, it's filthy," I say. "Did you find it in the alley?" Henry looks offended. "I bought it at the Unique. $10. Why? There's a program on tonight that I thought we should watch." But I can't imagine what show would make Henry risk time traveling. "It's okay, I won't sit and stare at it. I want you to see this." "Oh, what?" I'm so out of touch with what's on television. "It's a surprise. It's on at 8. The TV sits on the floor of the dining room while we eat dinner. Henry refuses to answer any questions about it, and makes a point of teasing me by asking what I would do if I had a huge studio. What does it matter? I have a closet. Maybe I'll take up origami. Come on, seriously. I don't know. I twirl linguine onto my fork. I would make every maquette 100 times bigger. I'd draw on 10-foot by 10-foot pieces of cotton rag paper. I would wear roller skates to get from one end of the studio to the other. I'd set up huge vats and a Japanese drying system and a 10-pound Reina beater. I'm captivated by my mental image of this imaginary studio, but then I remember my real studio and I shrug. Oh well, maybe someday. We get by okay on Henry's salary and the interest on my trust fund, but to afford a real studio, I would have to get a job, and then I wouldn't have any time to spend in the studio. It's a catch-22. All my artist friends are starving for money or time or both. Charisse is designing computer software by day and making art at night. She and Gomez are getting married next month. What should we get the Gomezes for a wedding present? Huh? Oh, I don't know. Can't we just give them all those espresso machines we got? We traded those in for the microwave and the bread-making machine. Oh, yeah. Hey, it's almost 8. Grab your coffee. Let's go sit in the living room. Henry pushes back his chair and hoists the television, and I carry both our cups of coffee into the living room. He sets the set on the coffee table, and after messing around with an extension cord and fussing with the knobs, we sit on the couch watching a waterbed commercial on Channel 9. It looks like it's snowing in the waterbed showroom. Damn, says Henry, peeking at the screen. It worked better in the Unique. The logo for the Illinois Lottery flashes on the screen. Henry digs in his pants pocket and hands me a small white piece of paper. Hold this. It's a lottery ticket. My God, you didn't. Shh, watch. With great fanfare, the lottery officials, serious men in suits, announce the numbers on the randomly chosen ping-pong balls that pop one by one into position on the screen. 43, 2, 26, 51, 10, 11. Of course, they match the numbers on the ticket in my hand. The lottery men congratulate us. We have just won $8 million. Henry clicks off the TV. He smiles. Neat trick, huh? I don't know what to say. Henry realizes that I am not jumping for joy. Say, thank you, darling, for providing the bucks we need to buy a house. That would work for me. But, Henry, it's not real. Sure it is. That's a real lottery ticket. If you take it to Katz's Deli, Minnie will give you a big hug and the state of Illinois will write you a real check. But you knew. Sure. Of course. It was just a matter of looking it up in tomorrow's Trib. We can't. It's cheating. Henry smacks himself dramatically on the forehead. How silly of me. I completely forgot that you're supposed to buy tickets without having the slightest idea what the numbers will be. Well, we can fix it. He disappears down the hall into the kitchen and returns with a box of matches. He lights a match and holds the ticket up to it. No! Henry blows out the match. It doesn't matter, Claire. We could win the lottery every week for the next year if we felt like it. So if you have a problem with it, it's no big deal. The ticket is a little singed on one corner. Henry sits next to me on the couch. Tell you what, why don't you just hang on to this, and if you feel like cashing it, we will, and if you decide to give it to the first homeless person you meet, you could do that. No fair. What's no fair? You can't just leave me with this huge responsibility. Well, I'm perfectly happy either way. So if you think we're cheating the state of Illinois out of the money they've scammed from hard-working suckers, then let's just forget about it. I'm sure we can think of some other way to get you a bigger studio. Oh, a bigger studio. It dawns on me, stupid me, that Henry could win the lottery any time at all. That he has never bothered to do so because it's not normal, that he has decided to set aside his fanatical dedication to living like a normal person so I can have a studio big enough to roller skate across, that I am being an ingrate. Claire! Earth to Claire! Thank you, I say too abruptly. Henry raises his eyebrows. Does that mean we're going to cash in that ticket? I don't know. It means thank you. You're welcome. There's an uncomfortable silence. Hey, I wonder what's on TV. Snow. Henry laughs, stands up, and pulls me off the couch. Come on, let's go spend our ill-gotten gains. Where are we going? I don't know. Henry opens the hall closet, hands me my jacket. Hey, let's buy Gomez and Charisse a car for their wedding. I think they gave us wine glasses. We are galumphing down the stairs. Outside, it's a perfect spring night. We stand on the sidewalk in front of our apartment building, and Henry takes my hand, and I look at him. And I raise our joined hands, and Henry twirls me around, and soon we're dancing down Belle Plaine Avenue. No music but the sound of cars whooshing by and our own laughter, and the smell of cherry blossoms that fall like snow on the sidewalk as we dance underneath the trees.